what's up? I'm Steven, and today I'm going to be running down my top 10 list of WWE superstars that should win the World Championship in 2021. This was a list of some superstars who I feel have either, or they're superstars that have either never held a World Championship in WWE yet, or that have but haven't held it in a long time that I'd like to see win it again so they can have like one more run with it and things like that. So that's how I've selected these superstars today. So starting with number 10, I chose Robert Roode. I really hate that he's in a tag team with Dolph Ziggler. Like, Roode is way better than that. He should have been a main eventer when he first came in. He was a main eventer in NXT, won the world title, but they didn't do much with him on the main roster. He's just been a tag team guy since he got here, which I don't like to see. I'd rather see him in singles competition, at least winning he did win the United States title before, but he should have been a world champion by now. And yes, this does include, it's either the WWE title or the Universal title. So I want to see him actually win at least one of those titles. Next year would be cool to see, because I don't know how much longer he has left in WWE, and I really hope he does leave WWE eventually if they're not going to use him. He'd be good in AEW, I think. So that's why I think he should actually become the World or Universal Champion by at least next year, maybe the year after. Hopefully get him out of this tag team division. I know that's breaking up a tag team and they don't have a lot of teams right now anyways, but I'm tired of seeing Robert Roode as like an afterthought. He should be a main eventer. He's really good in the ring. He was really good in TNA when I used to watch, before it was called Impact Wrestling, back when it was actually really good, for a while at least. I enjoyed him as a single star and a tag team wrestler in TNA. They did it right, but he seems more like a single star. So I want to see him win the world title, hopefully by next year. Next up is John Morrison. He's also in a tag team with The Miz. I want to see him actually. He's never held the world title, surprisingly, in WWE. He held it in like Impact Wrestling and I guess AAA and like the Luchador Wrestling over the years. But after he left WWE, but now that he's back in WWE, I'd like to see him win the world title, especially if The Miz wins the title using the Money in the Bank contract. I'd like to see him beat The Miz for the title, because that would be really awesome, because I hate The Miz. I don't want to see The Miz as champion for very long, so hopefully Morrison's the one that takes it from him, but I think Morrison is well deserving of it. He did fight for it occasionally back in the day when he was here, like before he left. Like, he had a singles run for a while. I know he's mostly known for tag team wrestling, like he was with Eminem, and then he was with Miz back then too, back in the ECW days and stuff. They were on SmackDown together, and now he's with Miz again. But I think he's better as a single star, just like I said with Robert Roode. So John Morrison should definitely win the world title at some point. I hope they realize his potential, just like they did for Drew McIntyre. Maybe even go as far as to have Morrison win the Royal Rumble. That would be somebody else new that could win that as well. But it's probably not going to happen anytime soon, as long as they keep him with The Miz. But I hope that it does. At number 8, I put Dominic Mysterio. Just because I'd like to see him win. I know he's still young in his career right now. But I'd kind of like to see him follow in Rey Mysterio's footsteps. That's his father. I'd like to see him at least start to win some championships. Like, start him off like everybody else. Like the Intercontinental title first, since he's on SmackDown, and then you can start to have him go for the Universal or the World title. Hopefully, at least within the next few years, even if not by next year. I hope Dominic Mysterio does win the world title at some point. I feel like it would be just as big as when Rey won the title, because like everybody loved that when Rey finally captured the world title for the first time. It was like a truly big moment, and it was an honor to Eddie Guerrero as well. So I think it would be an even bigger moment for this modern generation of like kids now growing up with wrestling. Dominic Mysterio will be their Rey Mysterio. I think it would be a big moment for them as well, and very memorable to see Dominic Mysterio out of this rivalry with Seth Rollins and Murphy and all this stuff. Maybe keep him separate from Ray as well, and just have him go off on his own and become the world champion at some point down the line. Next up is actually Edge. I know he's a former world champion. He's one of the best wrestlers of all time, in my opinion. He had some of the greatest rivalries I've ever seen too, like back in the 2008 and on, or whatever, like with the Undertaker, Batista, whatever. He was like this big heel, but now that he's back and he has a few years on his contract, like right now he's injured, but hopefully he comes back next year and can actually win the world title. I personally would have wanted him to see him beat Randy Orton for the title at WrestleMania, but it's not looking like Orton's going to win the title back anytime soon. He did for a few weeks and then lost it, but I think it'd be nice to have Edge have one final run as champion, at least some point during his new contract that he has within these last 3 years before he officially retires on his own terms and stays retired. I think it'd be nice to see him win the title again. And there's a lot of potential feuds he could have with this current crop of superstars that he would have never had back in the day. I'd love to see Edge versus Daniel Bryan, because it's kind of that dynamic that they were both injured and thought they couldn't wrestle anymore, and then got to come back and finish off their careers the way they want to. Because Daniel Bryan will probably be leaving soon too, so there's a potential feud there as well over the World Championship, but that could also be without the title. But I think having Edge win it one more time would be a really big moment for everybody that's a fan of Edge, especially since it was huge that he came back last year and entered the Royal Rumble and everything else. Next up is actually Matt Riddle, but his name's just Riddle now. But I think he's really good in the ring. I don't think we've seen his potential quite yet on Raw. He was good in NXT. I think he does have a future as a world champion. And I could see him in a lot of really good feuds, like with AJ Styles or Sheamus. Some of the people he's feuding with now, especially the people from his Survivor Series team that he was with, like Keith Lee, AJ, Sheamus, Braun Strowman. I could see Riddle winning the title and feuding with anyone or all of them over the next year, especially AJ Styles. I think him and AJ would put on some really good matches for the WWE title. I think that would really sort of cement, finally there's somebody from NXT coming up and winning the world title and not being an afterthought. I guess Vince McMahon must like Matt Riddle right now. I don't like that he changed his name and took away his first name, just calling him Riddle, but that's a different story. But I'd like to see Riddle win the WWE title, and it's somebody new too. It's not like Roman winning the title again, or Randy Orton winning. It's not like one of the older people that's been here a while winning the title. This would be somebody new and fresh to finally win the title for once. At number 5, I have Murphy, or Buddy Murphy, whatever you want to call him. Once he's done with this feud with the Mysterios, actually now he's technically part of the Mysterio family, I guess. They got him in this whole storyline, which is also a little bit bonkers, but now that he's sort of broken off from Seth, I think Murphy's really good in the ring. I'd love to see him go off and win the world title on his own. Maybe he could even feud with Seth over the title after he wins the title, you know what I mean? Something like that. But not that I want to see him face Seth anymore, because we've seen that enough times already. But there's a lot, just like with Matt Riddle, there's a lot of potential feuds that Murphy could get into as well. Him versus Bryan would be a fast-paced match. Him versus Sami Zayn, somebody else on SmackDown, or Dominic Mysterio. That could be who he beats for the world title, like I said earlier. I just think Murphy has the potential to not just be a former cruiserweight champion and a former tag team champion and that's it. I think at least within the next couple years he should win the world title, so that sort of cements him as a major player on the SmackDown brand, or Raw if he gets traded back there, or whatever brand he ends up on after a while, but when he finally wins the title. Because he does seem like a main eventer. I just don't think we've seen enough of him yet to really know, but once he wins the world title, then yeah, he would definitely be a main eventer, and I could see him winning the title a couple times. At number 4, I have Aleister Black. Where did they go wrong with him? He's really not competing right now. They sort of changed his gimmick to, I don't really know what it is, to be honest. He was really cool. He has that really cool finisher, the black mass. It's that like back kick thing to the head. It looks really brutal. He's taken down a lot of bigger guys with it. I'd like to see that more and more and see him in the main event as the world champion. Honestly, he's sort of getting the Ricochet treatment, it seems, now, where he's not being used as much. I don't know if it has to do with because Zelina Vega, his wife, was fired recently or whatever, but I hope that's not the case because he is really good. I hope they don't change his main character that he is. They sort of tweaked it a little bit. I don't want to see him come out in a suit and tie and be a whole new person. But I do hope that as Aleister Black and not some other character, he does win the world title and can go against some of these guys that he's been facing, like Kevin Owens or whatever. But with the world title at stake, I think these would be a lot bigger matches with Aleister Black as the champion. Number 3, I have Bobby Lashley, who, as you know, is the current United States champion. Surprisingly enough, he's never been a world champion in WWE. He was a former ECW champion, if that actually counts for anything. And, he was a champion in Impact Wrestling and everything else, but he came to WWE. They sort of threw him in this stupid storyline with Sami Zayn at the very beginning of his return, and then now he's in the Hurt Business. He won the U.S. title. I like what they're doing with him now, but I'd like to see him actually go on and win the WWE title as well. Maybe hold both at the same time. That would be huge too, but I could see him as almost a Brock Lesnar level threat to the roster where a lot of people wouldn't be able to take him down if they book him right. I mean, that's what he should have been from the get-go. I want to see him face Brock Lesnar, but we never got to see that. We probably never will. But I could see him being a threat like Roman Reigns, like Samoa Joe was when he first came up, and things like that, where nobody can beat him. He's unstoppable until somebody finally does. Even if it's not part of the Hurt Business, I'd just like to see Bobby Lashley win the WWE title. I'm sure all of you would agree as well, because it's about time that he did win the title, because he is one of those almost like a Batista or a Roman Reigns, or he's like a John Cena, Brock Lesnar level superstar, and he should be winning the world title, and it's amazing that he hasn't held it yet. And number 2, I have Big E, because right now that he's sort of split from New Day, but he's still kind of in New Day, I guess. He's on a different brand from Kofi and Xavier, but they're still kind of having him with that New Day gimmick. I think they should maybe change Big E and make him either a heel or just make him a more serious character. And I think it would be cool to see him finally win the world title and go a little bit longer than Kofi did with the title and not lose it in 18 seconds to Brock Lesnar. Plus, that gives Big E a really good big push, and he is a good superstar in the ring on his own, let alone with New Day. So I think he would put on some really good matches as a world champion, And finally, at number 1, I'm sure this is everybody's pick to win the world title that they hope will eventually. It's Keith Lee. He's amazing in the ring. He's one of my favorite superstars right now. I kind of feel like they're underutilizing him just a little bit. He was in that triple threat number 1 contenders match recently on Raw, but he didn't win. I'd like to see him win the Royal Rumble match, to be honest, and go on and face Drew or whoever's the WWE champion by WrestleMania. That's my hope, is that Keith Lee goes and wins the title in the main event. But I hope they don't push him under and just make him a United States title contender and that's it. Which, that would be cool too, because then he could feud with Bobby Lashley, but I want to see him go on to bigger things. He's the former NXT champion. I think he should win the WWE title or the Universal title. He could be the one that beats Roman Reigns, who knows. At WrestleMania, that would be a huge moment for him. I hope it doesn't happen on some episode of Raw. I actually want to see it at least a pay-per-view, if not WrestleMania, because Keith Lee is a main eventer for sure. You can tell he just oozes main event, so he should be the main eventer. He should be the top guy that everybody has to beat for the title. So there you go, guys. Those were my picks for 10 WWE superstars that should win the World Championship in 2021. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments section. Who are some superstars that you'd like to see win the WWE or Universal title in the next few years coming up, or at least next year at the very latest? Let me know that down in the comment section as well, and please like and subscribe for more videos just like this, everybody, and take care.
Subscribe!